So I'm Dr. Chris Moulin. I'm a senior lecturer in cognitive neuropsychology, and I'm going to talk to you in this podcast about a very fundamental concept in memory and cognitive psychology, which is about the relationship between encoding and retrieval. This is a core concept in cognitive psychology and one that I encounter in my daily life as a memory researcher. So the plan of what I'm going to talk about today is basically got three parts to it. I'm going to start off by introducing you to the three phases of memory, which are encoding, storage and retrieval. I'm going to talk about two classic studies from the 1970s about this kind of topic and the relationship between encoding and retrieval. But I'm trying to illustrate this point with some things that are of interest to students, people who are studying and trying to memorize and learn new information. But I'm also going to wrap up by telling you a little bit about contemporary research using memory cues and the ways in which we can help people's memory impairment. There's a photograph on this first slide, and this is just to remind me to tell you that psychology is a very new science. And some of these concepts that we talk about in cognitive psychology are only as old as the 1970s, perhaps some of them as old as the 1960s. But as a result, unlike chemistry and physics, the people who came up with the fundamental concepts I'm going to be talking about today are still alive, and they're still productive, and they're still working. And some of these ideas are very fresh. And it's important to remember that, because from our perspective of people who were born after the 1970s, we think of these ideas as old, but they're not. They're very current and alive still. And that's the kind of flavour I want to give you in this podcast. So the three phases of memory all need to be intact in order for you to retrieve some information. The classic question we might ask somebody is, what did you have for breakfast this morning? You can think about what you had for breakfast this morning, but essentially to answer this question, what you need to do is you need to have encoded the information. That means you need to have taken the information in. We often call that study. But you don't study your breakfast, you just eat your breakfast. But to remember it later, you need to have encoded it. It needs to have been registered into your memory bank, so to speak.